Hello Stampin' Friends, this is Jeannie Moss, the Bluegrass Stamper, here in the Bluegrass state of Kentucky, where it is almost Derby Day. Welcome to my studio. Today we'll be making this butterfly card, which is actually a pretty easy card to make. So let's get started. I'll be using the Go-To Greetings stamp set. For the greeting, I'm going to use the thank you. I'll also be using the Enchanted butterfly stamp set. This is a reversible set of stamps. So you have one stamp, you can use it on the back and you can use it on the front. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'll be using this package of Poetic Expressions DSP. We're going to use this pattern and this pattern, but there are lots of other pretty things to choose from in this packet. I'll be using the Vellum Basics. There's a leaf pattern and a dot pattern. All of these things are on the retiring list. So if you see something that you like, be sure to go and grab it before it's gone. There's only a couple more days to get those items. I'll be using the punch. This is the decorative circle punch. This is also retiring. You'll need some supplies. So this is the best time of year and the worst time of year because we're saying goodbye to some really nice products, but we'll be saying hello to some more beautiful products. You'll need a card base. This is the thick white card base. It's 8.5 by 5.5 and it's scored at 4 1/4. So that's our card base. You'll need a panel. This is Lost Lagoon, and just ignore the hole. We'll talk about that later. This is 4 by 5 1/4, so it's going to fit right on top. We need a couple pieces of DSP. This one is 3 by 4, and this one is 2 by 4. Actually 3 3/4. It's 3 by 3 3/4 and 2 by 3 3/4, sorry. You'll need a scrap of Lost Lagoon. You'll need a scrap of white. I've already cut this out and we'll talk about that. And then there's that piece of vellum. So those are the pieces we're gonna need, the materials. And let's get started. It's actually gonna be a pretty simple card to make. I'm going to bring in a piece of scrap paper to work on. And what I've done with this piece, I said we'd talk about that later. I have cut this circle out of this, and I've used the die from the Everyday Details. And the cool thing about this particular die is it has the cutting blade between the dots. So you can use it in two ways. So we're going to use this circle, but you could also use this as a frame if you wanted to, because it has the pretty dots on the outside of the circle and on the inside, so you can use both pieces. With this one, we are going to cover that hole up. I like to cut my pieces, if I can, out of my layers because you don't waste paper. So we're getting this piece actually out of our layer. So the first thing that we're going to do is to cover up that hole. And the way we're gonna do that is to apply some adhesive, and you could use your Stampin' Seal, or you could use any, whatever your preference is. I have not had my full cup of coffee yet today, as you can probably tell. So I'm going to just put adhesive all over this. I'm not going to go right to the edge because we are going to leave an 1/8 of an inch border on there. So I'm just going to put that down. I'm going to put this piece of DSP, and then I'll put this one at the bottom. I want to leave the same type of margins around. And then you can see that we have a seam in the middle, and we don't want to see that seam. So that's what this little strip, this is a 1/2 inch by, I don't know, maybe 5 1/2. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's longer than your card. And I'm going to put that across the seam. And then I'll flip that over. Let's make sure we got it straight. Not exactly straight there. And we'll cut off the excess. And now this piece is ready to go on our card. And you can see how we covered up that circle that we cut in there. So now you can't see it, but yet we have an extra piece to use on our card. And now we're just going to add this to our card base. Like I said, this is a pretty simple card to make. And I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to do a little bit of stamping and punching. Now, another die that's in that same Everyday Details die set is this small rectangle. And that's the one I've used. I've just cut a piece of scrap, basic white cardstock. And that's what we'll put our greeting on. So let's get our stamping done next. So this is thank you. And you want to be careful with these stamps that you don't end up rocking them or getting too much. I'm going to have to get this over where I can see it. Too much ink on it. So there's our greeting. While we've got this out, I'm going to pull out my foam pad because I'm going to use this stamp from the Enchanted butterfly. And it is a photopolymer, so I need this foam pad underneath. And I'm going to stamp the inside of my card. I'm just going to put this at the bottom of my card. Again, don't squish it in there. We say, what is it? Pat like a bunny, don't squish like a spider. So there's the inside of our card. And now we're going to stamp our butterfly. So I have the butterfly stamp. I'm going to actually turn it over, and I'm going to use the back side of the stamp. So it's just a smooth stamp. I'm going to ink up, and then I'm going to stamp this off a couple of times before I stamp on my cardstock because I don't want the dark color. I just want a light butterfly. So there you can see, it's called 3rd generation because we've stamped 1, 2, and this is the 3rd one. Now I'm going to clean this quickly. I'm going to use my Stampin' Scrub for that. If you don't have a Stampin' Scrub, it's great because up here in the corner, you see the little raindrops? It means this is the wet side. There's a little sun, that means this is the dry side. So I've sprayed a little cleaner on the wet side. I'm just gonna rub my stamp, and then I'm gonna come down and dry it off on the dry side. And now I'm going to turn that stamp back over so we can get the detail. So I'm gonna lay that down. Now we've got the detailed image, and we're going to stamp that right over this one. And again, I'm going to have to get it down. I hope you can still see because I have to see too. I probably didn't do that perfectly because it's a little hard to line up on video. But that's what we've stamped. And now I'm going to fussy cut this, but I don't want you to have to watch that. So I've already done that. So here's the one that I've fussy cut. And now we should have almost all of our pieces. We have one more thing to cut, and that's the piece of vellum that we're going to punch with this punch. This is the decorative circle punch. And again, this is going away It is on the retiring list. And I cut these pieces for class, so that's why I'm using a smaller piece. So it's a little bit tricky to line up, but I'll get it here in a second. Or not. This is a good way to use take your pick tool, and it doesn't appear there, maybe. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to punch, oh, I'm a little bit off down there at the bottom, but that's actually gonna be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and punch that. So you can see I've got a little flat spot, but that's gonna be okay because I've got a place to cover that up. You would take a little more time, or you'd use a longer piece. You could also take a Post-it note and stick on here and put it in, and that makes it a little easier to do too. But in the interest of time, we're gonna go with what we got. So I'm going to put this on the card, and I'm gonna use dimensionals for that. And I actually am gonna be using the edges of my dimensionals because I don't have any right here. But it's always good to use up your edges because there's no waste with our dimensionals. And we're gonna just put this right here. And now we're going to adhere this piece, and I want to offset it just a little bit. I also want to adhere it with glue dots because those won't be seen as much. And liquid glue doesn't dry as well on vellum. You can use it, but it's easier to use the glue dots. These are some old ones from a paper pumpkin. And I'm going to put the glue dots where they won't be seen because they'll be under something else. So I'm going to put one down here at the bottom, and I'm going to put one up here where my butterfly is going to go. So I'm going to put this right about here. And then my thank you, I'm going to put that on with some dimensionals, and I'm going to put it right across here. And so you can see that I'm covering up that flat spot that I had on my vellum. So again, I'm just using my scraps from my dimensionals. And I'll put this right across here. And now you'd never know I had that little flat spot there. Our butterfly, we're gonna put it on, but I want it to stand up. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pinch it. I'm gonna put my thumbnail right next to the body, and I'm going to push that side up. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now we have a flat spot where the body goes, and that's where I'm going to put my glue dots. I'm actually going to put a couple on there, so let me move that one a little bit, or not. I'll just add another one. And now I'm ready to put this on. So now he can fly. His little wings are not secured down. The last thing I'm going to do is to put jewels to embellish. So I'm going to use the center sized one, and I'm just going to put that up here on his little head. Oops, upside down. So I'm going to put that one right there. I'm going to put the larger one down here. And then I've got a tiny one that I'm going to put right here. And that is our card. So there's our pretty little enchanted butterfly card. You could put Wink of Stella on the wings to shine it up a little bit, but I think it's a pretty card and it's actually pretty easy. It would be a good sympathy card, birthday card, just about any occasion. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. If you'd like to email me if you have any questions, I'm at bluegrassstamper@gmail.com. If you'd like to see more projects, I have a website, www.bluegrassstamper.com. I send out free tutorials each week, so be sure to sign up for my email. Thanks so much. Bye.